Welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, a show at the intersection of technology and strategy. On this show, we interview industry leaders and experts to better understand how they think about strategy during this time of exponential progress.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Point of No Return podcast. I'm really happy this week to bring to you Lennie Moreno, founder and CEO of Sofdesk. I've known Lennie for a little while, and it's been amazing to see his startup grow and really have success despite some pretty big odds. A little bit of background on Lennie. He has over 8 years experience in the solar industry. He started as a salesman, switched to the solar installation business, and finally ended up in the software world. Lennie was able to understand firsthand how solar is sold from first contact to system connection. And that really made him kind of this double threat in this marketplace that he's built. He's an avid Muay Thai practitioner and a hip hop enthusiast. He also works to inspire teens in difficult situations, which we spoke a little bit about, and that I find is very deeply moving on my end. We had a great conversation about his startup, about raising money, and about giving back. We spoke about how he went from living literally within his office to a 30% company, about how or why finding the right investment partner is so important, and how his company decides to add new products that are moving beyond just clean energy. Lennie's really a special kind of entrepreneur, and he marches to the beat of his own drum, which is why I really like him. I hope that you enjoy the show. Lennie, thanks for being on the show, man.
My pleasure.
I'm happy we could sit down and chat. It's been a while. And I'd like to ask you maybe a first question. I never asked you this is, how did you get your career started in solar? How did you fall into this world?
Yeah. Well, I used to be a salesman for another solar company. So I used to sell in Ontario, and I was pretty good at it. So at some level, I realized that I could do the job better than the company I was working for. So I started my own installation company. And then I really got involved into doing everything. So from finding the leads to project management, the installation process, permitting process. So everything all the way down to the connection. And at some point I was like, you know what? I would need a software that could do everything that I'm doing much easier than the way that I'm currently doing it. So I started looking, realized there was nothing on the market. And that's when I started to develop Sofdesk, which was essentially an idea for myself, for my company. But then I realized, you know what? I don't need this for myself. It's much more profitable, and it makes much more sense to give it to everybody else that has the same problem. So that's where now we have SolarGraph, and we have almost 400 solar installation companies using it on a day-to-day basis, over 3,500 users, and that's all across the US and Canada.
Yeah. I like how in your little snippet you went from, had an idea to like massive success, but I imagine there's quite a few bumps in the road.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'd like to go back to when, you had the idea for software, for something scalable, but I imagine you don't have a software background. So how long did that process take of saying, you know what, I'm potentially sitting on something that's much bigger than just an installation company?
Yeah. Well, I needed to be true to myself in terms of what am I good at, and what am I good at? It's essentially get close to the right people and surround myself with skills that I don't have. So I started looking for a good developer. I searched for six or 7 months. And at some point I landed on Max, which is now our CTO. And I needed to make him an offer he couldn't refuse because I didn't have the funds to pay him. I mean, I paid him in the beginning like a subcontractor, but then I realized that it would be much better for the company if he would get involved full time, and we would make it his baby as well. So I needed to get with him, and then we hired a bunch of other guys, and that's essentially how we got into software. But me personally, I don't have a software background. I have great ideas like everybody else, but I think everybody has great ideas. It's really about putting the right pieces together in order to make that idea a reality.
And how much did the vision in the early days change to basically what you have today?
I think it's actually pretty on point. The only thing that I say on the solar side only would be different is really in terms of how you discover new things about different markets. So what's happening in California is not the same as what's happening in Florida, and not the same as in Texas and Ohio. So you have to look locally, and you have to do a lot of research in terms of how the utility works, how the grants are working, and how do people are selling in general. What are people using? So it was a lot of research locally in order to perfect the product, to have a product that goes really in the North American market. But I'm going to say it hasn't changed that much from the initial idea. The initial idea was always to be a like end-to-end solar platform. You could do everything, run your business, from first contact all the way to the connection.
So you dive into Sofdesk a little bit. And so you explained the original idea. What is it today exactly, if you had to explain it at a high level?
Yeah. At a high level, I would say it's a sales accelerator. So, initially, how you want to see it is just as a bird's eye view. If you have a bird's eye view of the software, if you have a lead, so let's say a homeowner that's interested in going solar, you would be able to enter his address, and then you would be able to draw the lines on the actual satellite imagery. And from that drawing, it would actually create a full quote with all the production, the savings, the financing options, the project steps, the local subsidies available, everything down all the way to, look, this is what's required for this project to work. And these are the financial numbers. So you can sell. And then once the project is sold, you can do everything in between that and the connection of the system. So the project management, the permitting process, the shading reports, everything that's required in order to complete this project. So that software essentially manages everything under one platform.
And if I understand, so you have kind of a dual aspect to your business model, right? One is just a pure SaaS model. And then second, you're also selling leads, if I imagine, right?
Yes.
What is the balance between those two?
Yeah, I would say that initially we were able to fund the company, a big portion of the company, just by selling leads. I was always pretty good at marketing, so I would just create marketing campaigns online, and I would generate leads, and I would match local solar installers with leads that I would find. So that is just a model where they just pay per lead based on the options, the radius, how exclusive the lead is. And then we have our SaaS model that came afterwards, which now I would say our revenue model is probably like 60-40 on the SaaS side. And it used to be 100% on the lead side.
What is there, and where do you see the company moving to? Do you see yourself investing more still on the product from like the pure software, or do you still see a lot of opportunity and headroom?
I would say that just for the solar side, there's always improvements. There's always new features, new things happening in a specific jurisdiction that we need to follow. So we always need to update that. But I would say for the core functionalities to run your business as efficiently as possible, we do have every single feature that is required. So there's not going to be a lot of heavy work coming forward, but it's really going to be more maintenance and new small add-ons and features. So that's why we are currently diversifying into other markets and not just solar.
And that's the launch of RoofGraph, if I understand.
That is correct. So we have essentially the same product, but it's really for roofers. It's really like a simplified version. It's even more slick. And that we're actually making it into multiple verticals. So whether you're a landscaper, a painter, so any small to medium businesses, we have the software for you.
And is it still tied to environmental impact at all, or?
Well, I would say that indirectly, yes, if you remove the solar. I mean, with the solar, that obviously like it reduces the soft cost. So, you are accelerating your cells. So there's more carbon offset, etc. That's for the solar side. So yes, it is environmental conscious, but on the other side, when you're talking about roofing and all, I mean, you're not using paper anymore. It's strictly software. All the e-sign stuff, it's all on the app. So there is obviously a conscience to it, but not like directly like solar. So yes, it makes the whole process more efficient, more professional. But in terms of direct CO2, I mean, unless you're just counting trees, I wouldn't say that it's directly related.
Unless you start selling, I guess, Solar Cities rooftops. I don't know if that's been.
Yeah. That's in the plans. We're definitely in talks with not just Tesla, but there are some other producers that they do these solar shingles, and essentially our software is customizable to any product. We're not tied to one specific product. We basically have a library of all the products available: inverters, panels, racking, everything else.
Where does your company currently stand in its life cycle? Are you guys focused on acquiring more customers and growth via different verticals? Are you more focused on retention and making sure customers are happy, or is it a mix of both?
It's definitely a mix of both. We do have a retention department. We do have a training department, which basically follows up with all of our clients to make sure that they're happy. But we do have an aggressive growth strategy to really focus on having more and more contractors, because the more contractors are using your software, the more the big guys will actually, look at us and be like, hey, we could actually sell our product in there, like these guys have 1,000 or so contractors. They obviously want to invest in that. So it is really a mix of both, but we need to keep our clients happy. That's for sure.
And you recently raised some funding. Well, it's been a year. How, you working with Enertech and BDC Ventures, how has that helped you guys accelerate? Specifically, obviously, the inflection of capital, but how have you used that capital for growth?
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to Enertech and BDC, they are bringing so much value in terms of just general experience. I mean, they've invested, I believe they had so far a little over 32 or 33 exits, and they're at their 5th fund now. And, but they bring the experience. So through them, we were able to understand a lot more. Once you reach like the Series A, Series B, Series C level, then there's a lot of things that comes into play. So one of the main things is that we created a board, like an official board. We have, one guy from BDC, one guy from Sofdesk, and one from Enertech, but we have 2 independents. And the independents, they really bring the value. They are the ones that they have, like industry knowledge specific. So they've been through it. They've raised money. They have made M&As. They've scaled companies. So they're there really to accelerate our process, in order to learn and to avoid some mistakes. So just in a small time that they've invested, it's been maybe like 10 months now or 11 months. And, our growth in 11 months is really, really substantial. But that's thanks to the value and the experience that they're bringing. So it's not just money. We were not just looking for money because we've turned down money before. We were really looking for the right partners that can, put jet fuel, but also bring the brains into it,
You've openly talked about refusing investment in the past.
Yes.
Why did you think that this timing was correct? Was it a mixture of timing of where you were and the specific partners?
I would say it's really, it would be a mix of both. For one thing, we haven't launched our SaaS model when we were offered the first round. And I strongly believe that there was a market for it, and the investors, they were not sure. So, they kind of, marked the deal in a way that, look, we'll give you like 50% of the funding now and 50% later if ever you reach like ABC. And, we believe that, if they can't have the same vision as us, then long term, they're probably not the right partners for us. So that's when we decided to say, screw it. We're just going to bootstrap. We're going to launch. We're going to make some sales, and we're going to up the value of our business, and we're going to find some better partners that fits better with our vision. And that's what we did. We've bootstrapped. I slept a little, like one more year in the office. I traveled to LA, drove there, closed a whole bunch of deals, and we're able to probably triple the valuation.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's a good story. It's also a good story because it reflects on timing of doing these things, right? I think there's a lot of talk in startup land of raising and using that as a milestone of success, but it also, there needs to be a deliberate thought as to what I'm going to do with this capital, and is it the right time? And a question of price, as you mentioned.
You are absolutely right. And, if if any startups are actually listening to this, you mentioned timing. Timing is probably the number one reason why a company will succeed or fail. And it's not necessarily the money. You can have all the money in the world, but if your timing is off, then it's not going to make sense for you. So for us, it was important that, there was a need for that. It was the perfect timing. And then we had the right team around us. We had a good business plan, and then the funding came. So, once you have the first three, then funding's last.
If we look at, let's say, moving forward, how do you sit down and prioritize the initiatives that Sofdesk is going to work on?
Yeah, well, I believe that diversification is super important. So that's why we are definitely putting some good efforts into that. But also, in terms of building with our clients, that has helped us to get to where we are right now. So we have to keep a strong relationship with them. We have to listen to them. We have to listen to their feedback, because that's our name out there. So as soon as, you kind of become careless as a company because you think you've made it and, the industry is just going to grow by itself, you're mistaken. So we're really focusing on, developing relationships, looking at other ways that we can monetize like a SaaS model. Because the SaaS model is like, you have your membership, but there's so many other ways that you can actually make money. And we definitely have a few ways that we can contribute, and like grow from there. And then on the other hand, in terms of future vision, we're very happy about this roofing product, because the market is right there for disruption. We've looked at all of the current players, and, there's maybe 100,000 roofers in North America. And I would say that probably 95% of them, they still use a pen and paper, or like a carbon copy, like paper tear off, and this is what they use when they come to go and quote. And we have this professional way that essentially you're going to save money, you're going to accelerate your sales, you're going to look way more professional, and you're going to be able to look at your profit as soon as you log in. You see your monthly profit, what's going on, how much you've spent, your orders, everything like that under the same roof. And that will help even the smallest roofer that's not organized have everything automated for him. And this is what we've helped build. And there's a huge, huge opportunity there, as well as many other verticals.
Yeah, it sounds like if you guys are doing a total addressable market analysis, that there's a lot of green lights on that chart. Is there anything that keeps you up at night in terms of achieving this opportunity?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, when you've went through some of the stuff that I've been through building this company and having debts and sleeping at the office for 2 years, and there's not even a shower in here. You know what I mean? Like I used to go to the YMCA to shower, and I would have debts, and sometimes I wouldn't know how to pay my employees. I mean, I had some difficult nights, but going through those, everything else after, it's like a breeze, So even if there are some features, some timing issues, sometimes there's some challenges, some market problems, like Trump just a few days ago, he has added these tariffs on Chinese imports, and it's probably going to remove like 20,000 solar jobs from the US, which is huge. But we've been through a lot worse. So it's not that's keeping up at night. The only thing that's keeping me up at night is how are we going to make this product better, and how are we going to bring value to our environment at a much higher scale. We hear like the general culture of Sofdesk is we don't focus on ourselves. We focus on society, the environment, everyone else but us. Muhammad Ali has a great saying. He says, the service to others is the rent that I pay for my place on this earth. And that's essentially the kind of values that I give to all my employees, to make them understand that it's not about their little ego. It's really about what makes them hungry for life. And if that thing doesn't involve helping other people, then they have to recheck what's their priorities.
Yeah, I like how your take on it, and I find also that from a different angle, you're also very much involved in the community, right? And I find that you put your money where your mouth is, right? I'd like to hear about how your involvement in helping teens, how obviously it's helped your business, and obviously, your specific, let's say, motivation to continue helping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that as an entrepreneur, there's too many entrepreneurs that I've met that they're there for the money and for the success and, the fame. And personally, I just don't get it. When you're an entrepreneur, you need to know, like, why are you doing this? And if you're doing this for money, then you have to recheck what you really like. Because when I look at myself, I'm like, I didn't have the opportunities. I didn't have money or love money, like, backing me up. So I had to figure it out by just, falling and then getting back up and falling. But it's the story of 99% of the people. And when I go to these shows or these startup events, I make sure that I speak the truth in terms of what it takes to actually build a company and why are you doing it. Because at most of these shows, they invite researchers. They invite people that I don't believe will speak the story of most of the audience. Because most of the audience, they don't care that, the researcher at LinkedIn that graduated from Harvard had some great moment that this is how we were able to make it and get 5 million more users. Like, this is not what they're looking for. What they're looking for is, look, I'm at a crossroads in my life and I don't know whether to go left or right. And I don't know what to do to get money. I don't know how to get the right team around me. And I don't know whether or not I should quit my job. And I think that the value that I bring, not only to these people, but also to young teens that were in gangs and, things like that, is just the vision of opportunity and understanding that once you put everything into perspective, you can actually get in a place once you accept and embrace who you are as a person and what is your true value and what can you bring to help others. And once you've embraced who you are, then it's much easier for you to figure out whether you go left or whether you go right. But for that, it takes a lot of understanding, meditation, and you have to sit back from your day to day and your gang and your crew and, what your friends will think about you, or even your family. Even your family may not encourage necessarily what's your dreams deep inside, but my teachings is more about, helping to have a perspective on life that's not just business. It's really more about embracing and then figuring out step by step how are you going to reach your goals. And for teens, that are these are people that really, they have so much opportunities, but they just don't know it because they were raised in a bad environment, surrounded by the, wrong things, less opportunities. But it's by going there and helping them that once I get to the startup people, I'm like, man, these guys are like, they're a breeze. It's like a little picnic. When you go through the gang people that are not listening, that will only listen if you talk about, hardcore hip hop or anything like that, then it becomes like, it becomes so easy from there to just be able to reach more people,
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit involved in that space too. I give talks a few times a quarter in high schools.
Yeah.
On top of other talks, and I find that it's so challenging to hold attention of a 14-year-old. And respect the teachers that have to do it all day, but it's like I'm completely drained after an hour. And like speaking, especially to disadvantaged teens, it's not easy. And getting one idea through is a challenge. So props to you for that work.
Thanks, man. The one thing that I can say is for anyone out there that is just focusing on his own ideas is one thing, but once you've learned what it gives you to help others, I think that the best quote for that was a Martin Luther King quote where he was explaining in a speech that he had the opportunity to not go and help the sanitation workers the day before he got shot. And he was like, man, I can get on the plane, it can explode. I've been receiving like 35 death threats. And he had the choice to say, you know what, I'm not going. But he decided to go, and he said it during the speech. He said, you know, the real question is not what will happen to me if I go and help the sanitation workers. It's what will happen to them if I don't go and help the sanitation workers. So that's where the mentality is. You know, don't be afraid to like put yourself in harm's way. If you think that morally it makes sense for you to help some people in need, your goal is to do that regardless of what it's going to do to your day to day. Fuck your day to day. I mean, it's really about you helping like other people with the talents and the skills that you've been blessed with, you know?
Yeah. Amen to that, man.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Sofdesk and see and talk about more long-term how you guys are planning to help more people, right? So I see you guys moving beyond just clean energy, but now to a broader goal of helping blue-collar workers, you know, come to this century's technology. Mm-hmm. You know, what are the plans essentially to, you know, for your company to accelerate that? Yeah.
I think that in order for us to really help, there's such a big market for small to medium contractors that are not organized, that do not look professional, but that has the right heart and that has the will to sell, the will to do a good job, but they just don't present themselves well. And this is where we come in, and we help your goodwill match what you actually look like. So with our software, instead of having like a carbon paper tear off for your quote, you have a professional online quote that you can edit in real time, that shows all the scope of work, that you can change anything in real time, and you can actually follow through with your job, keeping an open, transparent communication between your company and the homeowner that's actually receiving the services. So we're really enhancing the value of what they bring to their day-to-day work. And that applies across every independent contractor. And that's our global idea. That's our global scope of work. And it opens so many more doors for us in terms of manufacturers, distribution companies, software companies that are definitely looking for like a market like that.
And are there specific business trends or technologies or that you're keeping your eye on in terms of like implementing, or?
You know, I would say that we're really at the cutting edge of technology. I mean, we invest so much money in research and development of like what's the latest stuff, how we can automate and use like artificial intelligence for all of the steps in our software. We are automating the maximum of things that we can do. So I think we're doing a pretty good job, but moving forward, it's really about keep on hiring new talent that comes with new ideas so that we can always be challenged. And, you know, as soon as you think that you've made it and that you have the recipe, well, there's no recipe. There's always some new stuff coming in. So it's really about keeping an ear out, but at the same time, making sure that you hire the right talent that can bring this kind of like recycled ideas to just make it better and better over time.
So I imagine culture is a huge focus for you guys as well, and you've invested time in that particularly. What kind of people do you look for?
Yeah, well, you know, now it's rare that I'm part of the interviews, but whenever I'm part of the interviews, I like to ask a simple question, which is, what did you do last weekend? And you know, if I hear I was reading a book and, you know, learning about Sofdesk and this, like, I don't want to hear that, because I know maybe you were, but that was maybe like 20 minutes of your weekend. I want to know the real details of your weekend. I want to know exactly what happened. I want to know like what kind of person you are. Like, what's your values? Like, what's your passions? What motivates you? Like, I want to see if you can grow in this company, because I'm not offering jobs. I'm offering real careers that you can actually start from wherever and you can work your way up, because we're still at that level. We're only 26 employees and we plan to be more than 100 in less than 2 years. So obviously, like, you have opportunities. The truth and the question is, will you fit inside the general culture? So here we have like a whole bunch of activities that we do. You know, we have like We have a foosball table, we have a dartboard, we have a hockey net, we have a soccer net, we have a soccer turf, we have skateboards, we have video games. I mean, like, we have a whole bunch of stuff that you can just enjoy yourself and be yourself. Like, we're not going to step on your toes if you're late. We're about objectives and fitting well into the general KPIs of the business. And if you understand that, then you don't really care about your schedule. You only care about the well-being of the business and the well-being of your peers. So we're building more of like a cultural family, if you understand what I mean.
Super cool, Lennie. Yeah, I agree. I think it's the hardest thing to hire for is culture fit, right? And I've seen that. I live that on my end as well. To be respectful of your time, maybe one last question: where can people learn more about what you guys are doing and basically follow you online?
Yeah, sure. You can always go on sofdesk.com, sofdesk.com. That's our general company. You'll see the products that we have on there. And, if anyone is in the, startup community or, looking to follow any of the speeches that I do, you can just follow me on LinkedIn as well, Lennie Moreno. And, I'll be happy to connect.
Thank you for your time, Lennie.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to the Point of No Return podcast. Never miss an episode by clicking on the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play.